Hello and welcome to the second official Top 10, a series where everything is official and everything else is just an opinion. For this video we will be counting down the top 10 Star Wars movies. As of now, there are only 10 Star Wars movies, so this is actually a worst to best list. At this point I should do kind of an introduction to Star Wars for you, the viewer, but I think I will respect your intelligence and get right on with it. If you need an introduction to Star Wars, go get some nerd cred, watch some movies, and meet me back here later. My name is Mr. Official, and here are the official top 10 Star Wars movies. Number 10. Star Wars Episode 8. Some people liked Star Wars Episode 8. Those people have never even seen the original classic Star Wars, or they are just so very wrong. Star Wars Episode 8 was a raging dumpster fire. It was a train wreck that disrespected the very foundations of the franchise. Directed and written by Rian Johnson. He's not all bad. He directed such masterpieces as Evil Demon Golf Ball from Hell in 1996 and Breaking Bad from 2010 to 2013. I guess he never had much love for the Star Wars universe, though, as he literally takes a giant crap on its legacy while making the rest of the movie more or less bland. This movie tries to be funny. There are many jokes and gags. Be warned, gentle viewer, these are not all that funny. The characters are also milquetoast and badly written. This movie follows Jedi hopeful Rey doing what she can to take down the First Order. The Resistance isn't doing very well and the Jedi are dwindling. Luke Skywalker can turn this whole thing around. Maybe, but he's nowhere to be found. He's been missing. Where can Luke have gone? Did he join the dark side? Actually, Luke has been pouting on a little island planet in the middle of nowhere. He trained Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren turned out to be a pretty bad dude. Kylo Ren even killed his own father and Luke's buddy Han Solo. This makes Luke feel very sad, and now he won't help save the universe from the First Order. This is Luke Skywalker, right? Luke's sister Leia hasn't turned into a little sissy baby like her brother, but she's doing everything she can to steer the Resistance ship towards victory. She can do a lot of good, but little sis really does need the help of big brother. And Luke can really help out here, and boy oh boy, he finally does. Oh no way, he doesn't. He sends a hologram force projection version of himself that actually does kick some ass before being defeated. The defeat of Force Hollow Luke also means the death of real Luke, as he used all his power to accomplish that task. Luke's final battle wasn't even that epic. It really needed more. It also needed Luke. The new characters are mostly forgettable in this movie. Finn, Rey, Poe, and Rose don't really stand out. They stand out so little, I'm not even going to say anything else about them here. Snoke, though, Snoke was an exception. This memorable character died way too soon. Snoke was a good combination of sinister and funny. BB-8 was cool, but not really all that important or noteworthy. Just a cool little droid with a cool little design. R2-D2 and C-3PO were also in this movie. Benicio del Toro's character with DJ was pretty cool. This untrustworthy hacker may have sold out the Resistance, but he actually kind of had a personality, which is more than I can say about most of these characters. Well, that's enough of this crap. Let's move on to Number 9. Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. It was a hard decision whether this movie was actually better or worse than Episode 1. The pacing, political drama, and the bad dialogue had actually gotten worse. The action and the stakes had gotten better, but nothing topped the Darth Maul fight from the first movie. Most of this movie is a love story between Anakin and the Queen Amidala. Anakin is the Queen's main bodyguard and eventual lover. It's not horrible, but it's really pretty dull. The most important things in a Star Wars movie should be the action, the story behind the action, and the characters who perform the action. The characters should be larger than life, and this movie really kind of downplays that. Everybody, including Samuel L. Jackson, seems very medicated. There is almost no real emotion in this movie. The wooden acting and dialogue, along with the long stretches of politics and love, could make any Star Wars fan fall asleep while watching it. Number 8. Star Wars Episode 1. Star Wars Episode 1 really wasn't all that bad. It wasn't really all that great, but next time someone craps all over this movie, mention Episode 8, and they will likely break down in tears. This movie was like a plain cheese pizza. It was alright, but you wish you had some toppings. Episode 1 takes place 32 years before Episode 4. Big bad Darth Vader is a little kid growing up on the sandy planet of Tatooine. The prequels were mainly focused on Anakin's transformation into Darth Vader. The Trade Federation has set up a blockade of Naboo in preparation to invade said planet. Qui-Gon Jinn and his apprentice Obi-Wan Kenobi have been sent to negotiate with the Federation Viceroy Nute Gunray. Before Darth Vader, there was Darth Sidious, a Sith Lord and the true advisor to the Trade Federation. Sidious orders the extermination of the Jedi and the invasion of Naboo. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan go to Naboo to save the day. With the help of Jar Jar Binks, they rescue the Queen of Naboo and get the hell out of Dodge. Queen Amidala's ship gets damaged when trying to pass the Federation blockade, and they are forced to land on Tatooine, where they travel to Mos Espa. They need parts to fix the ship, and they meet Watto and Anakin at Watto's junk shop. Anakin Skywalker at this point is Watto's little slave boy. Anakin has some interesting hobbies. He built C-3PO and he likes to pod race. Watto has a little gambling problem, and Qui-Gon takes advantage of that by wagering Anakin's freedom if he wins a pod race. Anakin wins the race and leaves with his new Jedi friends to be trained as a Jedi. Amidala's gotta go do some political stuff, so Qui-Gon goes to the Jedi Council to try to get Anakin approved for some Jedi training. Yoda senses much fear and darkness in the young Skywalker, and he refuses said training. Amidala wins her political battle and returns to Naboo with her new Jedi escorts. She gets Jar Jar's people, the Gungans, to help in the fight while she leads the search for Viceroy Gunray. By complete accident or maybe the Force, Anakin takes out the entire droid ship and deactivates the whole army. Then Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan fight Darth Maul. Maul kills Qui-Gon, and then Obi-Wan kills Maul. Yoda promotes Obi-Wan to Jedi Knight and accepts Anakin into the fold, and everything looks good to the future. For now. This movie's main problem is its pacing, acting, and characters, but not to a huge extent. There is far too much political drama, which only gets more annoying with future installments of the prequels. The acting is often wooden, with not so great dialogue. The characters feel pretty bland with a few exceptions. Watto is a lot of fun, and Darth Maul doesn't need a personality to completely steal the scene with his complete badassness. Jar Jar, while not bland, is pretty annoying. Number 7. Solo. Solo was a space western movie. The final directing credit goes to Ron Howard, but two other directors, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, were previously attached to the project. They were fired due to creative differences with the studio. This movie explored the early adventures of Han Solo and Chewbacca. They are involved in a criminal heist, and they meet Lando. Alden has some big shoes to fill, and he does a decent job, but it's not on the same level as Harrison Ford. I can understand different actors having a different take on a character, but for this character, it would be very difficult to find someone to do it right. Han grew up on the planet Cornelia. Orphan children are not treated all that well there. They must steal and plunder to survive. Han escapes with his girlfriend Kira by bribing an Imperial officer for passage on a transport. Kira is taken before she can board. Han vows to return and save her. When he does meet her again, she is a high-ranking lieutenant for Voss's army. Solo really is just a light version of Star Wars. Star Wars at its core is a fun popcorn movie. Solo is kind of like Star Wars light. There's not a whole lot to this movie. There's a handful of impressive action scenes, some very long dialogue scenes, and not a whole lot of high stakes, which is strange for a Star Wars movie, but it does work, just not that well. This isn't a bad movie, but it's not very good either. It's pretty average, but it is worth a watch. Number 6. Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens was a good movie. It wasn't excellent like any of the original trilogy, but it was really good. The new characters like Finn, Rey, and Poe didn't seem as good as the original cast, but at this point they all had potential. The original cast was also in this movie, minus Mark Hamill until a cameo at the very end. At this point, we didn't know they would drag Luke through the mud, so the excitement was very much there. This movie had the death of Han Solo, but that was alright. It was expected. Harrison Ford had publicly said many times he had no real interest in continuing with this character. It would make sense that his character would be killed off quickly. With this movie, they had very much a mix of the old and the new to satisfy existing fans while trying to attract new fans with the new characters. The new characters don't have the same magic that the originals had. The original characters were so interesting that many of the fans are into the backstory for characters in background scenes. George Lucas was into characters that had an interesting visual design first, which made all his characters even more compelling, even when they may have lacked personality. Jim Henson was also a help, obviously. This movie hit many of the same beats as A New Hope, and it did it well. Thematically, it was very similar to the first movie, but it had enough of its own charm to stand on its own. This movie is all about Luke Skywalker. Everyone is looking for him, and nobody knows what happened to him. Han Solo sort of knows and explains how Luke exiled himself when one of his apprentices, Kylo, Han's son, turned to the dark side, destroyed the temple, and killed the other apprentices. The new cute droid BB-8 has the key to finding Luke, an incomplete map. There is another droid with the rest of the map, and yes, that droid is R2-D2. R2-D2 has been inactive since Luke disappeared. Once activated, he can complete the map and Rey can go and get Luke. Needless to say, the movie ends on a cliffhanger. Number 5. Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith is the best of the prequels, and is actually a really good movie. The first two were barely decent, but this is the one where Lucas gave it crap, and delivered a fine piece of work. It told the story he wanted to tell of Anakin becoming Vader, and the steps he took towards such a fate. This movie sets the stage for what we know from the 1977 Star Wars. It shows the battle between Vader and Obi-Wan, and how he lost his limbs in that battle. It has the introductions of Luke and Leia, if only as babies. The Death Star makes an appearance. The acting and dialogue is still somewhat wooden, but it has been improved. The politics are still present, but made more interesting due to the extreme events surrounding it. The battles are cool, but they have an overly choreographed feeling which makes them feel less natural, more like a dance. The CGI is also improved in this movie. Everything has more depth and weight. This movie has that balance that episodes 1 and 2 didn't have. It doesn't focus mainly on politics or action. It has a good mix of both. Seeing the end result of the love between Anakin and Padme was much more interesting than the blossoming love of the last movie. Star Wars Episode 3 gave the fans what they wanted, while staying true to Lucas's vision, but that would it being due to being made by Lucas himself. This would be his final Star Wars movie. Number 4. Rogue One. Rogue One is an interesting entry to the Star Wars franchise. It has a group of characters that you have never seen before and you will never see them again. It tells a story that was summed up in one sentence in the first movie. There's a design flaw with the Death Star. This design flaw was exploited at the end of the first movie, and it was, yes, that scene. That information had to travel a long ways before it was put into R2-D2 and found its way to Leia. This story shows the final part of that journey that information went through. It ended up in the hands of a group of rebels. These rebels did the off-the-books missions that needed to get done. The really dangerous or morally questionable missions. This is their story, or the very last part of their story. That information is the thing that can bring about victory, the thing that could destroy the killing machine in their backyard. This movie has possibly the greatest scene in any Star Wars movie. Darth Vader makes a few appearances. The best and final appearance has him walking down the hallway with a group of rebel soldiers just firing at him. He force chokes the whole lot of them, and this comes off as incredibly badass. The characters are decent enough, but mostly nothing too memorable. Donnie Yen brings a really strong performance as the blind daredevil. The droid K-250 is also a standout character, but not on its R2-D2 or C-3PO level. The story and action were great. The film really did feel like a Star Wars movie despite its departure in style. Number 3. Return of the Jedi. The original trilogy, and there are only 3 spots left. That means that the original trilogy as of now is officially the best Star Wars movies made. Return of the Jedi is the 3rd movie of the trilogy, and although it is the weakest of the 3, it's still an excellent movie. It's full of great characters, great story, and an excellent soundtrack by John Williams. The movie starts on a good note with a little heist. Han Solo is now frozen in carbonite and is in the possession of crime lord Jabba the Hutt, disguised as a bounty hunter with Chewbacca as a prisoner. Leia gets into Jabba's palace and frees Han from his carbonite prison. She is then captured only to become sexy slave Leia. Luke will have none of this, and he goes down to save the day. In the end, Boba Fett dies. Leia strangles Jabba, and Luke makes all of it possible. It's a great start to a great movie. Return of the Jedi features the most epic of all Star Wars battles. Luke versus Vader, good versus evil. After Luke Skywalker dies, and Vader takes over the universe. Oh, wait, no, that's my fanfiction. This is the most epic of all Star Wars battles. Good versus evil. Father versus son locked in mortal combat. Good wins and everybody then celebrates on Endor. A good chunk of the movie takes place on Endor. Endor is mainly known for one thing. That's right, Ewoks. This is the thing that divides the fans. Some love the Ewoks and some hate them. I think it's time to make an official statement on the Ewoks. They are fine. They are neither great nor terrible. They are amusing, but I wouldn't want them around all the time. The Ewok debate amuses me enough, so by taking a neutral stance, the argument can officially continue. Number 2. Star Wars. The one that started it all. Star Wars. This movie introduced us to some of the greatest characters that ever graced celluloid. Star Wars is one of the best movies in terms of visuals, characters, sound, music. Lucas kept things simpler with the original trilogy, and that really worked to its benefit. Things like this were simpler in the 70s. The futuristic ships, with their minimal yet futuristic design, has a charm to it, and this movie rode that charm all the way to the finish line. The visuals were fantastic, not just with the special effects, but with how the scenes were shot. Everything feels so powerful and dramatic. This has a lot to do with John Williams. The music in this movie is as close to perfect as you're going to get. The visuals perfectly set the scene, and the music perfectly sets the mood. The sound effects are pretty much perfect as well. The best example is the sound the lightsaber makes, especially when it connects to another lightsaber. The special effects are great, and they still hold up today, in the sense that they still look great in this movie. The characters in this movie are fantastic. As this movie opens, we are introduced to C-3PO and R2-D2. They explain a bit of the story to us. Pretty soon we meet Luke and Obi-Wan. Not long after that, in the cantina, we meet Han Solo and Chewbacca. Then Leia and Vader. These are some of the greatest characters ever created. This is one of the greatest movies ever created. But there is another. Number 1. The Empire Strikes Back. The original Star Wars was a perfect 10. This is also a perfect 10. I just like it better, so it's officially better. This has everything the first movie had and more. More iconic characters and settings. More fantastic stage play dialogue with great special effects and music by John Williams. More space battles. Epic lightsaber duels. And gripping drama. Just more. 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 The main settings are fantastic here. You get the ice planet Hoth. This is where the movie starts. The rebels are on the run and they've set up a base on Hoth. On Hoth, we are introduced to the Wampas. These abominable snowmen-type creatures look awesome! There's also the iconic scenes of the AT-AT battle and Luke taking shelter in the Tauntaun. After Hoth, Luke goes to Dagobah, a little swampy planet, and he meets up with the coolest of the Jedi Masters, Yoda! Dagobah has so much life and personality, and we only see the smallest bit of it around Yoda's home. Then we see Cloud City, another great location. A little city in the clouds, and it's where we meet Lando. It's a complete tonal shift from the previous two sets, and it works great. The same characters make their return, except of course for Obi-Wan. This movie introduces Jabba the Hutt, Lando, and of course Yoda. Han Solo owes money to Jabba, so Jabba takes Han and freezes him in carbonite. Jabba is an excellent character in design and personality. His gluttonous gangster personality really works. Lando is a good character as well. Lando got himself on the Empire's target list, played nice, and delivered Luke and company right into their hands. Yoda really needs no explanation. He is the coolest of the Jedis. This little goblin-like Jedi is the master of wisdom and patience. He is the one who starts to teach Luke about the Force and what it means to be a Jedi. Well, maybe not the first, but he is the coolest one that shows Luke how to use the Force. This is about as perfect as you can get for a Star Wars movie. This movie basically took the perfection of the first one and added a few more perfect layers. If you haven't seen the original trilogy, it's required viewing, so you should probably get on that.